Welcome, seekers of the esoteric and the profound, to the Leo Karmic Throne. I am your guide through the celestial tapestry, and today we embark on a monumental exploration of the Leonine archetype. We are standing at the precipice of a profound astrological and psychological epoch. For those born under the sign of the Lion, or those with significant Leonine placements orchestrating their natal charts, a seismic shift has occurred within the unseen architecture of your fate. The cosmic decree has been issued, echoing through the halls of the Akashic records. Your debt is paid. But what does it truly mean for a Leo to owe a debt? And more importantly, what is the nature of the sovereignty that awaits on the other side of this karmic ledger being wiped clean? To understand the magnitude of this transition, we must strip away the superficial pop-astrology narratives of Leo as merely the charismatic performer or the attention-seeking royal. We must dive into the profound psychological depths, the mythological crucibles, and the ancient philosophical truths that govern the journey of the sun's own child. Let us begin by acknowledging the exhaustion you have carried. For years, perhaps even lifetimes, if we view this through the lens of esoteric astrology and reincarnation, Leo has been operating under a heavy, unseen gravitational pull. You have been the eternal benefactor of warmth and the central pillar holding up the emotional and spiritual sky for those orbiting you. Yet, in this relentless giving, a silent, corrosive dynamic took root, the transactional nature of your light. Have you not felt it? The subtle, gnawing sensation that your right to exist, your right to occupy the throne of your own life, had to be continuously purchased through sacrifice, performance, or the relentless bearing of burdens that were never truly yours. Then Part 1. The Architecture of the Karmic Debt. To comprehend the era of absolute sovereignty you're stepping into, we must first dissect the anatomy of the debt you have just finished paying. In astrological tradition, Leo is ruled by the sun, the center of our solar system, the source of all life, light, and gravitational order. The sun does not ask permission to shine. It simply is. It is the ultimate symbol of the pure, unadulterated I Am presence. However, in the realm of karma, the sun's boundless energy can become entangled with the human ego. The debt of Leo is rarely a material one. It is a spiritual and psychological entanglement. It is the karmic burden of conditional validation. In ancient philosophical traditions, particularly within Eastern systems of dharma and karma, there is the concept of nishkama karma, action performed without attachment to the fruits or results. Well, Leo's great karmic stumbling block has historically been the exact opposite, burning brightly, but secretly starving for the reflection of that light in the eyes of others. You became tethered to the very people, situations, and institutions you were illuminating, believing that if they stopped looking, you would cease to exist. This created a spiritual deficit. You were leaking your vital life force, your solar prana, to sustain relationships that were parasitic, and jobs that demanded your creativity but denied your authority, and family dynamics where you were forced to play the savior. The true tragedy of the unevolved Leo is not arrogance, but a tragic, heartbreaking generosity that bankrupts the soul in exchange for a love that is inherently conditional. Think of Carl Jung, himself a Leo, now who revolutionized psychology with his concept of individuation. Jung posited that the ultimate goal of human life is to integrate the conscious and unconscious, moving from the fragile ego to the unshakable self. For Leo, this karmic debt you have been paying was the painful, grueling friction required to shatter the ego's need for applause, forcing you into the dark, solitary cave where the true, sovereign self resides. Part 2. the Nemean paradox, slaying the false king. To further illustrate this, we must look to the mythological roots of the Leo archetype, Heracles and the Nemean Lion. In the myth, the Nemean Lion is a terrifying beast with impenetrable golden fur. No mortal weapon can pierce its skin. Heracles, representing the evolving soul, must defeat it, not with swords or arrows, but by wrestling it with his bare hands, strangling the beast in the darkness of its own cave. For the past several years, and as the nodal axis shifted and the outer planets applied relentless pressure to your fixed fire nature, you have been in that dark cave. You have been wrestling the Nemean Lion. But the secret of the myth, and the secret of your astrology, is that the lion was never your enemy. The Nemean Lion represents your own fierce, impenetrable ego defenses, built over a lifetime to protect a fragile inner child. The debt you paid was the letting go of these defenses. You had to realize that the armor you wore to protect your heart was actually a cage that prevented you from claiming your true throne. You had to experience the symbolic death of your false pride, your need to control outcomes, and your attachment to how others perceive you. When Heracles finally defeats the lion, he doesn't discard it. He uses the lion's own claws to skin it, and he wears that impenetrable golden pelt as his armor. This is the exact threshold you're crossing right now. Then the ego has been subdued. The debt of false pride and people-pleasing has been paid in the currency of tears, isolation, and profound self-reflection. Now, you are donning the mantle of the self. You are no longer fighting for your right to rule. You are stepping into a state of existence where your sovereignty is an undisputed, self-evident truth. Part 3. The Alchemy of Absolute Sovereignty. What does absolute sovereignty look like in the physical, emotional, and spiritual reality of a Leo whose karmic slate is wiped clean? It is the transition from force to power. In the past, you may have used your tremendous willpower to force outcomes, to keep people together, or to mold reality to your vision. It was exhausting. It was the energy of a king constantly fighting border skirmishes. Sovereignty, however, does not fight. As we analyze the current cosmic weather, we see an energetic unhooking. The transits that once felt like a cosmic crucible melting down your impurities have now settled into a supportive structural alignment. You are entering a phase where the frequency of your mere presence commands respect, creates boundaries, and magnetically attracts your desires. Sovereignty and boundaries. You no longer over-explain your no. A sovereign ruler does not justify their decrees to those who refuse to understand the vision, and sovereignty in creation. Your creative output, whether in art, business, or how you design your life, is no longer tailored to the market's applause. It is an emanation of your divine right. Like the Promethean fire, you wield your creativity not to warm those who are ungrateful, but to forge your own empire. Sovereignty in love. The most profound shift is in your heart. The Leo who has paid their karmic debt no longer loves to be loved back. You love because you are love, and the sun does not shine upon the earth and demand the earth shine back. The sun shines because it is its nature to do so. We are only just beginning to scratch the surface of this magnificent epoch. We must still explore the specific planetary triggers that catalyze this liberation, how to navigate the void that often follows a massive karmic release, and the practical steps to actualize this sovereignty in your daily material life. The Part 4, the Plutonian Crucible and the Sovereign's Void. Welcome back to the deeper chambers of the Leo Karmic Throne. If you have recognized the exhaustion of conditional validation we spoke of in our opening, you are now ready to understand the mechanics of your liberation. The karmic slate was not wiped clean by accident or by mere passage of time. It was incinerated. To understand this, we must look at the slow, tectonic movements of the outer planets, and specifically, the great lord of the underworld, Pluto, and its opposition to your solar placements. In evolutionary astrology, Pluto represents the soul's deepest evolutionary desires and the necessary destructions required to achieve them. When the cosmos demands a Leo to mature from a performer into a true sovereign, it initiates a process of psychological stripping. You may have experienced this over the last few years as a series of betrayals, profound disillusionments, or the collapse of structures you once thought were the pillars of your identity. People you poured your golden light into may have turned their backs. Careers you built with your lifeblood may have suddenly felt suffocatingly hollow. Do not mistake this cosmic stripping for punishment. It was a divine extraction. The universe had to isolate you. Why? Because a true monarch cannot be crowned in a crowded room filled with sycophants and energy vampires. Then the debt you paid required you to stand completely alone and realize that your light does not extinguish when there is no one there to applaud it. This brings us to the most disorienting phase of the transition, the sovereign's void. Once the karmic debt is paid, once you finally stop dancing for the approval of the gallery, the immediate result is rarely pure joy. It is usually silence, a profound, echoing emptiness. In psychology, and this is known as a liminal space, the threshold between what was and what will be. Many Leos panic in this void. The old ego, addicted to drama, conflict, and the savior complex, begins to starve. You might find yourself thinking, if I am not the hero of this crisis, if I am not the center of this dynamic, who am I? In ancient Egyptian mythology, the sun god Ra journeys across the sky during the day, radiating life. But every night, he must travel through the Duat, the underworld, where he battles the serpent of chaos, Apophis. The sovereign's void is your journey through the Duat. It is the necessary darkness where the remnants of your false ego are consumed. During this void, you are learning the highest spiritual lesson of the fixed fire sign, containment. Fire that burns indiscriminately is a forest fire. It destroys everything and eventually burns itself out. Fire that is contained within a hearth becomes a source of enduring warmth, alchemy, and sustained power. Now the void is teaching you to build your inner hearth. You are learning to sit with your immense power without needing to discharge it to prove it exists. Part 5. The Architecture of the New Kingdom, Redefining Loyalty. As you emerge from the Duat, as the void begins to coalesce into the solid ground of your new reality, the era of absolute sovereignty truly begins. But a new era requires new laws. The Leo, who has paid their karmic debt, approaches relationships, business, and creation from a fundamentally altered paradigm. The old paradigm was based on transactional loyalty. I will shine on you, I will protect you, if you give me center stage and never abandon me. The new paradigm is based on resonant alignment. A sovereign ruler does not beg for subjects. They establish the culture, the vision, and the frequency of their kingdom, and those who resonate with that frequency naturally gather. Here is how the architecture of your new kingdom manifests. The law of energetic reciprocity. You are no longer available for one-sided dynamics. The unevolved Leo finds self-worth in being the strong one who carries the burdens of others. The awakened Leo recognizes that true love and true partnership require equals. You will find yourself naturally repelling people who only want to consume your energy, and effortlessly attracting those who wish to co-create with it. The end of the defense mechanism. In the past, when challenged, the Leonine shadow would roar. You would defend your pride, explain your actions, or engage in dramatic battles to prove your righteousness. The sovereign Leo no longer roars at the court jester. You realize that defending your reality to those committed to misunderstanding you is an insult to your own throne. Silence and removal of access become your most potent responses. Either shift from performer to director. You are stepping off the stage and sitting in the director's chair. You no longer need to be in every scene of your life's drama. You are learning the art of delegation, observation, and strategic silence. You are allowing others to shine, secure in the knowledge that their light does not diminish yours. To anchor this intellectually, consider the philosophy of Stoicism, championed by another famous leader, Marcus Aurelius. While not a Leo, his philosophy embodies the evolved solar principle, mastering one's internal empire so completely that external chaos loses its grip. Your sovereignty is not about controlling the world around you. It is about the absolute, unshakable mastery of your internal response to it. Part 6. The Alchemy of Solar Magnetism, Bending Reality to Your Will. Welcome back to the Leo Karmic Throne. Having traversed the grueling Plutonian crucible and sat within the profound stillness of the sovereign's void, we must now turn our gaze to the external world. Inner alchemy is meaningless if it does not eventually crystallize into tangible reality. You have paid the debt. You have claimed the throne. Now, how does the kingdom actually manifest? This brings us to the core principle of your new epoch, the alchemy of solar magnetism. In the old paradigm, the unevolved Leo operated on the law of effort. You believed that to get what you wanted, be it love, wealth, or recognition, you had to perform louder, work harder, and outshine the competition. You chased your desires. But physics and astrology teach us a different truth about the sun. The sun does not chase the planets. It does not exert effort to keep the Earth, Jupiter, or Mars in its orbit. The sun simply possesses such immense, undeniable density and mass that it bends the fabric of space-time around it, creating a gravitational well that compels other bodies to orbit it. Your newly acquired absolute sovereignty is the psychological equivalent of gravitational mass. You are no longer chasing, you are anchoring. When a Leo drops the desperate need for validation, their energy field condenses. You become heavy with self-worth. You become a gravitational center. This shifts how everything in the material world interacts with you, the manifestation of wealth. In the era of karmic debt, your finances may have been tied to how much you could sacrifice or how much you could please an employer or a market. Now, wealth becomes a byproduct of your authenticity. You begin to attract resources, not because you hustle to exhaustion, but because you offer a frequency of undeniable value. You step into roles of leadership, entrepreneurship, or creative mastery with a calm authority that commands premium compensation. You no longer discount your worth to make others comfortable. The death of imposter syndrome. The lingering shadow of the ego is the fear of being found out. The sovereign Leo banishes this phantom completely. Because you are no longer playing a character to win applause, there is no mask to slip. You rest in the absolute reality of your competence. If you do not know something, you admit it with the grace of a monarch who is secure enough to consult an advisor. The power of the pause. In negotiations, arguments, or high-stakes situations, you used to fill the silence out of anxiety. Now, your greatest weapon is the pause. You state your terms, you state your truth, and you let the silence do the heavy lifting. This silent, solar confidence unnerves those who operate from lack and magnetizes those who recognize true power. Part 7. The Horoscope, Sovereign Love and Destined Partnerships. Perhaps the most agonizing part of the Leo karmic debt was paid in the realm of romance and partnership. Because your heart is naturally ruled by the sun, your instinct is to pour warmth into cold spaces. Historically, this meant attracting partners who were emotionally unavailable, wounded, or parasitic. You played the rescuer, the muse, or the parent, secretly hoping that if you healed them, they would finally build a pedestal for you. That era is dead. The ashes have been scattered. As you step into absolute sovereignty, you enter the frequency of the Horoscope in the ancient alchemical concept of the sacred marriage. Before this can manifest with another human being, it must occur within you. You have finally married your own inner masculine, the active, outward, boundary-setting solar force, with your inner feminine, the receptive, intuitive, self-nurturing lunar force. Because you are no longer a fractured being seeking a missing piece, the nature of who you attract changes fundamentally. Attracting the king/queen, in not the subject, you are no longer visually or energetically visible to energy vampires. Their radar cannot detect the frequency of absolute boundaries. Instead, you begin to attract equals. These are partners who possess their own kingdoms, their own sovereignty, and their own self-sourced light. The end of trauma. Bonding. The friction, the extreme highs and lows, the dramatic breakups and makeups, these were symptoms of the karmic debt. The sovereign Leo finds drama deeply unappealing. You now crave peace, consistency, and nervous system regulation. You recognize that true, destined love does not feel like a roller coaster. It feels like arriving at a grand, peaceful estate that you co-own. Co-creation. Over codependency. In this new era, your partnerships, both romantic and platonic, are characterized by what you can build together, rather than what you can extract from one another. You are two suns entering a binary orbit, illuminating the cosmos together without ever eclipsing one another. We are witnessing the death of the performative Leo and the birth of the majestic, self-sustaining creator. But the universe is a master teacher, and before this sovereignty is permanently locked into your destiny, it will send tests to ensure your crown is not made of fool's gold. This brings us to the next crucial phase of our journey. Would you like me to continue by revealing the phantom tests, the specific, tricky ways the universe will try to pull you back into your old karmic loops, and the ultimate blueprint for maintaining your throne against these final illusions? Part 8. The Phantom Tests, the universe's final karmic audit. Welcome back to the innermost sanctum of the Leo Karmic Throne. We have traveled through the crushing weight of the conditional ego, navigated the dark, disorienting void of the soul's transition, and mapped the newfound gravitational power of your solar magnetism. And you are sitting on the throne. The era of absolute sovereignty is here. But my dear Leo, the universe is a master alchemist, and it does not hand over the keys to the kingdom without a final, rigorous inspection. In esoteric astrology, whenever a profound karmic debt is paid, the Lord of Karma, Saturn, steps in to perform an audit. This is the phenomenon I call the phantom tests. When you shift your frequency so drastically, the old reality creates a vacuum, though the universe will send echoes of your past to test the structural integrity of your newly established boundaries. These tests are not punishments. They are opportunities for you to physically demonstrate to the cosmos that you are no longer the person who incurred the debt in the first place. If you do not recognize these tests, you risk sliding back down the mountain. Here is exactly how the phantom tests will manifest in this new era. 1. The trap of the wounded bird, the false rescuer dynamic. Because your heart has historically been your greatest vulnerability, the universe will test your sovereignty by presenting you with a familiar archetype, the beautiful broken soul who just needs a little of your light to heal. In the past, your Leo savior complex would have roared to life. You would have sacrificed your peace to fix their chaos, mistaking pity for destined love or codependency for loyalty. Now, the sovereign Leo recognizes this immediately. You understand now that pouring your golden, life-giving prana into a bottomless vessel does not heal the vessel. It only drains the sun. When the wounded bird arrives, your test is to offer them warmth from a distance, but to absolutely refuse to step inside their cage. You must pass the test of letting others carry the weight of their own karma. 2. The illusion of urgent importance, the ego's last stand. You will be offered a situation, a job, and a role in a family dispute or a social dynamic where you are told, "We cannot do this without you. You are the only one who can save this." This is a highly intoxicating drug for the Leonine shadow. It is the ego's desperate plea to be the center of the universe again. But remember the physics of your new sovereignty. The sun does not rush to put out fires on the planets. It holds its center. Well, the test here is to recognize that urgency is usually someone else's lack of planning, disguised as your moral obligation. You pass this test by employing the power of the pause we discussed earlier. You look at the chaotic situation, smile with the grace of a monarch, and say, "I trust you will figure this out." 3. The ghost of conditional validation, the hollow applause. Someone from your past who previously withheld their love, approval, or respect will suddenly return, is offering exactly what you used to beg for. They will validate you. They will praise you. They will try to hand you the very currency you spent lifetimes trying to earn. This is perhaps the most profound test. The unevolved Leo would snatch this validation and immediately reinstate the old power dynamic, grateful for the crumbs. The sovereign Leo, whose karmic slate is wiped clean, looks at this validation and realizes something shocking. You no longer want it. You realize that their applause is too small for the auditorium of your soul. You pass this test by politely declining the invitation to shrink back into an old version of yourself just to make someone else comfortable with your evolution. Part 9. The blueprint of the sovereign, crowned in reality. Having passed the phantom tests, you arrive at the pinnacle of your astrological and psychological evolution. You have integrated the shadow. You have survived the void. You have held the line against the ghosts of your past. How then does the awakened Leo live day to day? What is the blueprint of a life lived in absolute sovereignty? To understand this, we must look at the astrological axis of Leo and Aquarius. We are currently moving as a collective into the age of Aquarius. Aquarius represents the collective, the network, the decentralized power. But Aquarius can only function if the opposite pole, Leo, is healthy. A strong collective requires fiercely individuated, sovereign, and self-actualized individuals. Your personal healing is literally a requirement for the evolution of the human collective. Here are the pillars of your new, sovereign reality. The first pillar, unapologetic joy, as a state of rebellion. For so long, your joy was conditional. You were only allowed to be happy if everyone around you was taken care of. In this new era, your joy is your primary compass, and it is entirely self-sourced. Though you realize that the fifth house, ruled by Leo, is not just about children and romance. It is the house of pure creation. You create art, build businesses, and design your life simply because it pleases you to do so. Your joy becomes an act of rebellion against a world that demands suffering as the price of admission. The second pillar, the alchemy of forgiveness. A true monarch does not carry the heavy, rotting corpses of old resentments into their new castle. The debt is paid, now which means you must also release the debts you feel others owe you. The people who used you, the partners who drained you, the systems that overlooked you, they were all merely actors playing their roles in your karmic curriculum. You forgive them, not because what they did was right, but because your energetic field is now too pristine, too highly vibrating, to harbor the low-frequency sludge of bitterness. You cut the cords, you bless the lesson, and you ascend. In the third pillar, radical authenticity, the golden pelt. Remember Heracles and the Nemean Lion? You are now wearing the golden pelt. You are impenetrable to the judgments of the gallery. You no longer curate your personality to avoid intimidating others. If your light is too bright for them, you kindly suggest they wear shades. You do not dim your wattage. This radical authenticity is the ultimate filter. It instantly repels the false and permanently magnetizes the true, or epilogue, the eternal flame. As we draw this monumental exploration to a close, I want you to take a deep breath and feel the energetic weight of what we have discussed. You have spent lifetimes carrying the sun on your back, terrified that if you stumbled, the world would freeze. You have played the jester, the martyr, and the savior, all to pay a debt that was inherited through a misunderstanding of your own divine nature. That era is over. The Akashic records have been updated. The scale is balanced. You're stepping into a timeline where your very existence is the value you provide. You do not need to perform. You do not need to bleed to prove your loyalty. You do not need to shrink to be loved. You are the fixed fire of the zodiac, the eternal flame that burns not to consume, but to illuminate. Sovereignty is not a crown you put on your head. It is a frequency you hold in your spine. It is the quiet, unshakable knowing that you belong exactly where you are, and that the universe itself is expanding through your unique, individualized expression of consciousness. The throne is yours. The kingdom awaits your vision. Reign well, and reign true.